like button. And if you would like to see other content like this, please subscribe. Today, I am going to be talking about the food label, and it's called The Food Label Explained. Is this good for me? In this video, I'm going to explain two main components of the food label. I'm going to talk about the ingredient list and the nutrition facts table. I'm Canadian, and so this is in the context of the Canadian food label, which is different than the American. There's just a couple of very small differences. And I'll note those in the video. The food label is basically everything that's written on the label. So it's not just the nutrition facts table. The food label is everything, even the brand name and everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on the nutrition facts table and ingredient list. This is most relevant to what people are interested in. And so the food label contains the name of the product, the brand name, the expiry date or the best before date, if that is relevant, the ingredient list, and the nutrition facts table, of course, preparation instructions, if any, the size of the container, and other facts about the product. For example, is it organic? Is it gluten-free? And there's a few other parts of the food label. And I'm probably going to be doing other videos on food labels. And so, this is just a very brief introduction to the ingredient list and the nutrition facts table. And I'm going to use the example of soup. So, here we have Campbell's Italian wedding soup. Usually there is a photo of the product after preparation and serving suggestion. So this is normally what the product is going to look like after you get it prepared. And they're allowed to add other things to it. So for example, if it's a rice dish, they can add it as a serving suggestion. They could put meat with it or put garnish on it or something else to make it look like it's a full meal. They're allowed to do that, and it's not necessarily everything is available in the package. But in this case, this is just the soup, and the soup is itself, it's like the total thing. And we can see that the container size is 515 milliliters. Okay, so let's look at the ingredient list. The ingredients are always listed in order by weight. So the heaviest or the most abundant by weight is the first ingredient, always. And then it gets lower and lower. And so the first ingredient, or the most plentiful in this case, is chicken broth. It's got ingredients of its own, and if the ingredient list has an ingredient that has ingredients in it, they have to be listed as well. And so the chicken broth has chicken broth and water. So, they have to list that as ingredients. And the next ingredient, the second one, is beef meatballs, and in brackets they put soy. Now, I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't know if they were fake meatballs that are made out of soy, but after doing a little bit of research, it just means that soy was in the meatballs, and they didn't list the ingredients. So they still have to work on the ingredient list to make it more easy to understand, but they have made some changes, and I talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, that was a little bit confusing. And it kind of looks like beef is the actual ingredient, but in Italian meatballs, they do add soy to it just to make it stickier. Okay, so the next ingredient is acini pasta. think I'm pronouncing that right, but it's close, I guess. And that also has ingredients. So wheat flour and egg white. And the ingredients, the next one is spinach, potato starch, salt, dried onion, and they specify that the Parmesan and the cheddar is milk-based. Now, these days, they're trying really hard to make sure that people are aware of anything that's an allergen. And so even if it seems like it's, of course, it's like, of course, the cheese is going to have milk in it. Sometimes they say contains milk, as if it wasn't obvious, but often a label will do that, or the ingredient list will do that. And the next one, dried garlic, spices. They don't say which spices. They don't necessarily have to say which spices. And also for flavorings, they don't always necessarily say what flavors. Now, that can be a problem for some people. If it doesn't say gluten-free on the package, for example, and they have an ingredient that's called flavor, that flavor may contain gluten. So if you need to be gluten-free, then that's one of the things that you have to be careful of. But I am going to be doing a series of videos, and I haven't started this yet, and it's, I'm gonna call it Food in Focus. And I'm gonna be doing these little 5-minute videos, 5-6-minute videos, and I'm gonna talk about things like what is organic and what is gluten-free, and what is milk ingredients, is that the same thing as milk? So just kind of busting some myths maybe about some of the ingredients that are in our food and some of the food products that we are eating. And so I'll be doing them. I'm not sure when I'm going to be getting that started, but I'll be talking about that in the future, but that's not what this video is about. Okay, and then it contains, they talk about MSG, monosodium glutamate, and that's a flavor enhancer. So the next ones are salts, and they are flavor enhancers. And that's common in a lot of soups. We put flavor enhancers in soups because soups tend to be very, very bland. And part of that is because, well, it contains a lot of water and not a whole lot of other things. And also because they can the soup, they have to do a process called retorting. And that means that they have to put the temperature to really, really high temperature for usually a very long time, sometimes hours, to make sure that Clostridium botulinum organism is dead and all the spores are dead. Otherwise, people would be otherwise people will end up with botulism. And so that's why they have to be very careful about that, but that ruins the flavor. That's why when you have vegetables in a canned soup, they're mushy, it's like baby food. Okay, so now, so it looks like we've got a lot of these flavor enhancers. But based on the ingredient list, is this a healthy food? It's okay. But yeah, it does look like it's kind of high in sodium just because of all the salts. But we don't really know. But that's what the nutrition facts table is for. But they did do a change to the ingredient list recently, and it was a good change. They took all the sugars because sugar has, like, I don't know how many different names. They call it glucose, they call it dextrose, fructose, anything with O's. And there are also other things, high fructose corn syrup, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's many, many, many different names for sugars. Well, if sugar is the ingredient, they have to put them all together. And then, when they list the ingredients, it's the weight of those ones together that determines where it is on that spot in the ingredient list, where before it used to be they were just kind of sprinkled everywhere and it looked like there wasn't a whole lot of sugar, but when you looked, like there was like 10 different types of sugar in some products, but they were all over the place. And it didn't look like there was a whole lot of sugar because sugar was not the first ingredient. But if you put them all together, sugar ends up being the first ingredient. So they did change that. And that's been just in the last couple of years. Okay, so some ingredient lists are very simple with only one or two ingredients, such as ground beef, and or water, with I don't know, minerals added to it, and some are very complex. Okay, such as the frozen dinner. So now, the next thing is the nutrition facts table. The first thing to note is the serving size. So the nutrients in this product is per 1 cup or 250 mils. And the entire container is 515 mils, slightly more than 2 servings. Now, in the American label, they put how many servings are in the container. In the Canadian one, they don't. That's one of the small differences. And we note that in that 1 cup or 250 mils, there's 110 calories. So it's important to note that that 110 calories is in 1 cup, not the whole container. Okay, and we look down further and we have 3 grams of fat. And out of that 3 grams of fat, there's 1 gram of saturated fats and 0 trans fats. And I also going to be discussing trans fats in the Food in Focus videos. And the next next we have carbohydrates or carbs, 14 grams. So carbs are broken down into sugar and fiber. Now, fiber is a carbohydrate, but since we do not digest it, it's categorized separately. Cellulose is usually what the fiber is, and it's calorie free because we don't digest it. And the sugars is 1 gram. Now, the carbs in total is 14 grams. So now we know that starch, which is what's left over, we've got fiber, we got sugars, and we've got starch that make up that 14 grams. And so if we've got 1 gram of fiber, 1 gram of sugar, then we know we got 12 grams of starch. And the cholesterol is a type of fat, and it's 10 grams. And sodium is 780 milligrams. And I will be talking about cholesterol in another video. And the rest of the nutrients are very common on the nutrition facts table. Now, what do those numbers mean? We see here percent daily value, which is the percentage of the total needs for the day is satisfied by 1 serving of the product. So 1 cup of this soup gives us 4% of our daily need for fiber. And we see down in the footnote that 5% is considered a little, while 15% and more is considered a lot. So 40 milligrams of calcium would be a little, not so good of a source of calcium. And 34% of the sodium is considered a lot and satisfies about 1/3 of our daily need for sodium. So this confirms our suspicion from the ingredient list that this would be high in salt. Now, is this a good for you food? It's not bad, but it does contain mostly water, which has no nutrients, and therefore it's really not that high in protein. It's not very high in calories, but it's not high in protein or fiber. It's not very satiating. And if you have high blood pressure, you might want to not have this too much because it's high in sodium. So here are a couple more examples of nutrition facts tables. Ground beef, 20% protein. So note the high protein there, and there's no carbs, which is typical for meat. And prunes are almost no protein and relatively high in sugar. Now, there's no added sugar here. We don't know that from the nutrition facts table. The Canadian nutrition facts table doesn't have that information, but you can tell by the ingredient list that there's no sugar added. And the rolled oats is low in protein, but high in carbohydrates, and it's like all starch, basically. And the fiber is, in this case, in a serving of rolled oats is almost considered a lot, but not quite. So if you make it just a little bit more of a serving, higher serving, then yes, it would be considered a lot. Okay, so that is a very brief look at the food label. I would like to further discuss the ingredient list, ingredients and products, but that's for several more videos because it would just take a really long time to discuss everything in a lot of detail. But I love talking about this, and I can go on and on and on and on and on, but I will spare that for now. So thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe if you like my video content. And again, thank you for watching.